Hey guys, Youngblood with you, and CIG released an update last week on the comm link regarding ship customization, which if you haven't read yet, is essentially going to be the start of how we can really start to make ships our own. Now today, you know you can go in and swap components between ships in the Mobi-Glass ship configuration tab, or you can buy components and weapons using Alpha UEC and the Persistent Universe to kind of kit out your ship to your liking. But visually, all ships of the same line basically look the same. Now, we've known skins and paints were coming for a while, but this is going to be our first real chance to see it firsthand, and while I can't say anything about it right now, is obviously something that is being tested at the moment. Now, the ship that they are starting with is the 300 series, which they chose because it's been their most recent tester for customization in internal testing. Not to mention the fact that it's a very popular option as far as ships people own. So it'll give a lot of people a chance to test this out and provide feedback. Now, they will eventually move this technology to other ships, and they do want to expand it, but they need to have some place to start. So let's jump into those FAQs that they released about the options to decorate your ship with things like paint, interior items, and more. So first off, the customizations are going to cost you money, which shouldn't really be all that surprising because many games are using cosmetics as an easy way to earn additional revenue without getting into the performance of ships in a pay-to-win model. Now, before people start crying about this and being able to paint your ship black and making it a performance upgrade because it's hard to see, I want to address that. In Star Citizen, your ship is big, but compared to the scale of the verse, it is minuscule. Dogfights take place over tens of thousands of meters. So if you haven't spent a lot of time dogfighting, what you generally experience is that you're looking at pips, which means that the color of the ship doesn't really matter. In addition to that, your radar is picking up targets and putting these colored HUD brackets around them on your heads-up display, meaning that most of the time you're not even really looking at the ship itself unless you're really close, and even then that's not really even how you're aiming unless you're really trying to visually target something very specific. So, even with a ship that's stealth, the size of the ship means that you're likely going to have some sort of a HUD notification before you physically see the ship, even if it was bright purple. So long story short, the paint isn't really a performance issue, at least in my mind. So getting back to the story, yes, these will cost real money to do. However, they have confirmed that almost all of these customizations are going to be available in-game via UEC purchase, and some will even be free overall. Now, in regards to persistence of these, if your ship is destroyed or reclaimed, they state that the manufacturer customizations, basically the ones that you ordered from the shop when you purchased, are going to be covered under your base hull insurance. So if you ended up ordering a blue 300 when you bought it, the one that you claim under insurance is going to come back as blue, which is part of the initial coverage. However, later on down the line, the more you equip on your ship, you may end up with a higher insurance deductible as a result of that, but we'll need to see how that all works out, especially if you're still going to have to just pay when you do an expedited claim, or if they're going to institute something where you're paying for every single claim. Now, as far as what can actually be customized, initially it looks like paint colors like primary and secondary, plus interior trim, plus some seat and yoke options, as well as like bedding, and then some additional fun stuff like stereos or coffee machines. But there's a lot more planned to come as feedback is submitted, as well as things like weapon customization and overall packages. Now, there are essentially two different places that you'll be able to do these upgrades, with the first being the manufacturer when you order your ship. However, there are other locations like chop shops, which I don't think is a real appropriate name for this, but whatever. You'll end up being able to find other types of upgrades in the verse, like taking it to a body shop in the real world to have paint applied or other types of upgrades, which may not be available from the manufacturer and is likely going to come with Alpha UEC cost versus real money. Now, a good example that they gave was Origin isn't likely going to sell you a 300 series with flames down the side. However, a chop shop doesn't care what your 300 series looks like because they don't have any vested interest in the brand, so they would do it. Now, based on the discussions and leaks, it appears that the ability to do these customizations comes in an application, which appears to be almost mobile in design, but it'll be native to the website as well. Now, anyone that already has a 300 series ship will be able to use the customizer to be able to make the ship their own, and this tech that they're developing is long-term going to give the ability to do things like ship modularity or customization later on, so it may not just be an ordering utility, it may become an overall customization, with the cosmetic portion really being the first iteration of the technology, being focused on paint and trim, but later being used for bigger things like attachments, ship modules, and other things like the Caterpillar modules or the Vanguard Battlefield upgrade kits. Now, Some of the props, like the stereo or the clock, may end up being interchangeable down the line with what they call fun stuff being, I'm sorry, not interchangeable, interactable, with stuff that they are working on, like being able to jam to some tunes in your ship while making a cup of coffee, which I assume is probably easy to implement because they can play off of that jukebox technology that was in the hangars, for playing music. Long term, they do have other things planned too, such as decals, which may be able to be customized with things like ship names or registration numbers, but I'm personally hoping to get things like organization logos, especially since that's already available on their website. Now, one of the most important questions that will need to be a bit more detailed on is in regards to changing your ship over and over again. Now, they state that you're likely going to be able to return it to them, that you'll be likely to unable to return it to the manufacturer to have it changed for free. For example, my Jeep is blue, so if I took it to the Jeep dealership and said, I'd rather have this red, they'd tell me I'm crazy, or they'd hand me a bill to paint it. But they sure as hell wouldn't just paint it for free or exchange it. So in the game, it's probably going to be similar to where you can order it how you like, but you can't just swap it out, which kind of gives you more direction to what they're wanting to do with that chop shop model. If you order it blue, you wish it was red, you're going to end up having to take it to a chop shop to have them update it. That being said, they do say that you can go onto the website and exchange the ship for credits and repurchase it. To me, that sounds a lot like melting and rebuying, which, if it's the case, there's a lot to be worked out, because there is a melt timer, meaning you have to own the ship for 24 hours before you can melt it. And for those who have ships in packages, you'd be dropping the whole package to rebuy it, and then there's going to be CCUs in that package if you've done any of those cross-chassis upgrades, and you lose those when you do a melt and rebuy. Don't forget that you also only have one buyback token per quarter, so you'd really be limited in how often you could do this for credits only. So I think there's a lot of issues with that system, so I'm kind of hoping that they find a different way to handle this so you're not going to have to be as reliant on chop shops in the game. Long story short, though, there's some really cool stuff that's coming in 3.5.1 surrounding customization, and personally, I can't wait to play with it and share it. So once we're able to get in and test it, and it kind of gets out of ETF, I'm going to make sure that I'm sharing this with you all, and I'm planning to probably pull a 325 back out to kind of share that experience. So for now, that's it. If you guys have questions, let me know. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Have yourselves a wonderful day, and take care.